Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the invisible backpack. I'm Kathy Magnuson from Wildewood Learning, and I'm sharing a short video with you today that is all about defining those words about grace and compassion, recognizing what grace and compassion are, and then how can we practice having compassion for both ourselves and for others. So I welcome you here today and for taking a few minutes to listen to this video and ponder a few questions. We all have invisible backpacks that we carry with us into school and work every day. Sometimes these backpacks are light. We have everything we need to feel safe and to go through our day. And then there are days when our backpacks are incredibly heavy and maybe even overwhelming. Maybe in your invisible backpack, you're carrying for an elderly family member that's taking time. Sometimes you're sick or your family members are sick, and that can really carry a weight. Or we have grief and loss over a loved one or something that has happened in our family. Maybe you have a lot of worry, concerns, anxiety about yourself, about another family member that's suffering with some mental health issues. Or a serious accident has happened for you or for someone else, and it's taken a toll on your health. There's other things like a loss of job and situations that are happening that just can pile on into our backpack that we might be carrying with us each and every day. There's also positive things that happen that add to our backpack. Those activities that we have after school. Maybe it's coaching or playing a sport or going to your kids' activities, and they're enjoyable, but they also can add to our backpack. And maybe there's things that are happening at home, and there's always work to be done. That too can add to our backpack. And then you put on those expectations of teaching students and working with families. This can be a load carried daily by yourself and the people you work with. Sometimes people come well adjusted and well equipped to take on the day. Other days, not so much. So I'd like you to just take a moment and reflect. What might you be carrying in your invisible backpack? And then, what might your students be carrying in their invisible backpack? If you have a moment, I'd like to either have you pause the video and jot these down or share with another person. So consider that everyone is doing the best that they can based on their knowledge, their skills, and experiences. They are making the best choices that are available to them, including you. This is a quote in the book Onward by Elena Aguilera. She's the author of the Onward book. And in the book, she describes a situation where she is doing some coaching with a teacher. And this teacher is complaining during their coaching session about how another teacher is not doing enough, and that she's not doing enough for the children or for what she needs to do in school. And Elena asks her to shift her perspective, to sit back and consider that the teacher that she was complaining about is doing the best that they can. The best that they can with what knowledge and skills and experiences that they have. And we are doing the best that we can. So it's all about balancing compassion and grace with expectations. So, what are we talking about when we talk about compassion and grace and expectations? Grace is an unearned gift. This would be things like forgiving someone, letting go of a grudge, or overlooking a comment, or maybe giving a person another chance. Grace is all about not taking things personally. Compassion. Compassion is about taking action to alleviate another person's suffering. So this is not much different than empathy, but in empathy, you're walking in that other person's shoes. You might even be taking on some of that other person's emotions. And sympathy and pity is creating that distance of, oh, poor them. It's creating a situation of where they're an othering. But compassion starts with listening with an open heart. Also, compassion for others starts with self compassion, compassion for yourself, extending some kindness to yourself and reframing from that critical voice that we sometimes hear in our heads. And then setting expectations for yourselves and others. Sometimes we need to lower the bar for ourselves just so that we can have enough strength and energy to take a step back, to gain another perspective, and to maybe make changes that are needed. The same thing goes for setting expectations for others, maybe coworkers or for students. So I'm not advocating that this is making excuses, but I am advocating that we have understanding for ourselves, understanding for maybe what our coworkers are going through, and certainly understanding for what our students are going through. So how can we increase our compassion and grace with our co-workers and students? As I said, compassion starts with listening. So by telling and listening to others' stories and telling your own story. So it could start with some of these sentence starters that I have here, some of these conversation starters. A positive experience I had with a student was, or a teacher or coworker that positively impacted me was, or there are 3 things I would like you to know about me, and they are. These are just ways to kind of start having a perspective, listening to others and listening to the stories that they might tell, and how you might then gain some perspective and compassion for them. So if you have a moment, I encourage you to pause the video now and maybe have a short conversation with a coworker. So just to wrap up, a little bit about carrying our invisible backpacks is to recognize that the load some people are carrying and that they are doing the best in that moment. We don't always know what kind of load or what kind of items are in a person's invisible backpack, and gaining some perspective and shifting that to, we're all struggling here, or listening to their story can be a great way to create that compassion and grace for others. Maybe finding one good thing about a difficult coworker or student or family member that you have. Taking that step back and finding that one good thing. Because let me tell you, there's probably more than one good thing. And then giving yourself some kindness, some self-compassion, recognizing that, yeah, you might be going through something that's very hard, or that we're all going through things after the last couple of years that we've had, and it has been very hard. And to give yourself some kindness, some grace, and maybe lower your expectations just a little. So I'm wishing you a very compassionate day, and I hope that this can bring some perspective and compassion to your life.